So today I would like to talk about the concepts and theories in map making for GIS. And the first set of concepts we need to understand is a vector layer versus raster layer. And this is the very basic concepts you will learn in every GIS class. So the vector layer gives you a discrete view of the map, which means all the objects are discrete, they are not continuous. And the objects are constructed by coordinates. So a point can be represented by a set of coordinates such as 6, 11. And then a segment is constructed by linking two points, and then a shape, or we call a polygon, is constructed by linking all the corners of a polygon. So since everything is constructed by coordinates, when you zoom in and zoom out in the image, you cannot see the difference, and you cannot see the loss of quality. And the raster layer is very different. All the pictures or photos you share on social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter are all raster layers, which means all these layers are constructed by pixels. So when the system is creating a raster layer, it tries to fill out the cells with different colors instead of constructing it with different coordinates. So here I would like to show you the examples of vector and the raster layer. So let's bring up the GIS. If you still remember, we have worked with our first lab on this layer, and this is a layer of the US states, all the states in the US. And this is a very typical raster layer, vector layer called shapefile. And when you zoom in and zoom out the layer, you cannot tell the difference. For example, if you zoom into a certain area in this map, the Texas, and it's still very clear. And if we zoom into the corner, you see it's still very clear. So no matter how large you want to view in this map, the map is always very clear, and there is no loss of image quality. However, raster layer is very different. I just downloaded a map from the Google. Well, if you see from this view, you cannot tell the difference of the two layers. However, if you zoom in and zoom out in this image, you can tell the difference from the vector layer. So let's zoom into Texas, and you can see the little pixels in this image. And when you zoom in bigger, the pixels become bigger. Now you kind of understand the basics between the raster layers and vector layers. And here in GIS, we normally use vector layer for this class. However, the raster layer is always used for remote sensing imaging, which is a different area in geography. And there are three types of vector layers in GIS. They are called points, lines, and areas. In the GIS term, points are still points, lines are polylines, and areas are called polygons. Raster layer applies to a phenomenon that can be measured at all locations of the Earth. For example, there are certain physical geography features that are everywhere on the Earth's surface, such as air pressure, such as wind speed, and the elevation. So they are everywhere. And the raster layer are normally represented on a grid, but some other representations are also accepted, such as triangulated irregular networks, or called TIN in the geography term. So here I have some examples for you. So in my understanding, I would say business addresses and crime locations, as well as transportation network, are vector layers because they are discrete features. And on the other hand, elevation, precipitation, and temperatures are the raster layer. So next, we talk about the map composition. When you think about a map, there are certain elements you should be that should be added into the map. For example, a map should always have a title that tells you the reader what this map is about. And then some maps will have elementary text telling you the basic facts about this map. And the scale is very necessary. It tells you the actual size of the object on the map. Inset is a new term. This means a different area for a separate region on the map. For example, the Hawaii and Alaska in a US map is always displayed in the area called inset. And orientation means the north arrow. Legend is what the color or shapes of the map mean. It is always in a separate area, and we will get to that later. And the source means where the data is from or who has prepared the map. So when you have finished making a map, always add the author name. So the map is prepared by your name. So when you think about making a map, you should really think about how your map will be organized and styled. Of course, you can use different colors to represent the features or to quantify the values within the feature. Or you can use different font, which means the different styles of text to label the features. In general, there are 5 types of symbolization methods in a map. They are shape, size, color hue, color value, and texture. So the first symbolization method is called shape. A typical example of a shape would be a zoo map. If you think about a zoo map, the different shelters or animal exhibit will be marked with different signs on a map, and those signs are different in shape. The second would be size. If you think about the traffic fatalities in the US by state, the more fatalities, the bigger the size of the circle. And this can also be applied to earthquakes in terms of the numbers or intensity of the earthquakes. The third type of symbolization is color hue, which means the different colors such as red, pink, black, green, orange, blue, etc. And the color hue will be best used for mapping functions of the different objects. So the buildings on campus will have different functions, and each function can be represented by a color. And if you think about another example, for example, the parking permit, each parking permit is associated with a color, and you can use that color for mapping the parking areas. And the color hue is also used for mapping quantitative data, such as the level of risks or hazards. And I personally believe this is an earthquake map. As you can see, the Madrid Fall in this area, and the California is also highly risky in regards to earthquakes. And the next example is color value, which means the same color but different values. For example, dark red, light red, and intermediate red, and things like that. So the color value is best for quantitative data. So if the object is associated with numbers, or that can be quantified by numbers, such as intensity of earthquakes, precipitations, elevations, or the number of populations, these features can all be quantified by color value. The last one is called texture. This is always used for black-white map. When in the history there was no color printers, so if you want to differentiate different land use, you will use the texture for black and white map, and this is less used for current map making. So in general, this is a summary of the different symbolization methods in a table. we have shape, size, color, hue, color value, and texture on the one side, and then on the other side we have 3 types of vector data: points, lines, and areas. And their examples are also given in this text box. So the most important column is the last column, the qualitative data, would include shape, color, hue, and texture. And quantitative data, which means numbers, would include size, color, hue, and the color value. So color hue appears twice in this table. And one of the critical concepts in map making is called choropleth map. And most of the maps we talked about here are all called choropleth map. This is a very ancient word, and it's a Greek word with a combination of choros, which means place, and pleth, which means value. And we have the ICA definition, which is very formal. ICA represents International Cartographic Association. Basically, the choropleth map are the maps demarcated by administrative boundaries such as states, zip code zones, counties. So each unit will have a different color in a map. And of course, there are some other specialty maps you should be aware of in addition to the 5 different symbolization methods. There are pie chart, isoline map, as well as cartogram. A pie chart is a combination of size as well as color hue. So in this map, you can see the size of industry is represented by the size of circles in France. And within each location or city, and the industry is also divided into different types, such as chemicals, textiles, or food processing, etc. And each type of industry is represented by a unique color. So you can tell not only the size of industry in each city, but also the proportion of the sub-industry in the city, and which is a unique map to show 2 features at the same time. The isoline map is best used for describing continuous features such as elevation, precipitation, as well as temperature. So the points or the values on the same isoline or contour are always the same, and they are created by a geographic technique called interpolation. You interpolate the value of the discrete point and create the isolines. A cartogram is a distorted map. The level of distortion is dependent on the value of the feature. For example, this map shows you the 2004 election results with 2 types of voters by county. And there are more examples of cartograms if you look at this website called show.mappingworld.com. And lastly, let's talk about the classification techniques in the GIS. And you will know this from your lab, but I will tell you that when you are making a map, make sure the legend is clear and organized. The left side of the screen or the left box is what's in the data, and the box on the right is what's on the map. It means the label in your legend. And it's very hard to describe without the example. So here I would like to show you a very small example. Here is a map of US, and I will make a map showing the population by state. This is a very quick tutorial, and you may not understand all the steps, but that's totally fine. You will see it in your actual lab. Properties and symbology. Quantities. So here I will use population 2000 to make this map. And this map is not perfect, but however, it's usable. But to make it better, I would specify the break values on the screen. For example, and this is 493 something thousands to 2 million. So I will make the break value 2 million, and the next will be rounded to 5 million, and the next will be 10 million, and the next will be 20 million, and you don't specify the last one. And in the label part, this is what the map reader will see on the screen or on an actual map. So I will make sure this is more organized. You can type whatever you want in the label, but however, I would match the data to be more accurate and clear. So this is smaller than 2 million, from 2 to 5 million, and 5 to 10 million, and then 10 to 20 million, and then larger or greater than 20 million. And you cannot tell the difference from this map. However, when you are making a map from the map view, the layout view, and then if you insert the legend, you will tell the difference. And here you can see the legend is more organized and is more readable. Then when you think about categorizing your data, the first question is you need to put number of colors or the number of classes on the map. Since most map readers can only distinguish up to 7 colors, I would say do not use more than 7 classes or categories. I would normally use 4 or 5 classes to review the pattern, and if you use 3 or less, that doesn't give you too much variation. And this is exactly what I showed you before. Don't use the unrounded values, break values. Always round the values. Or if you don't want to round them, you can use the low or high labels to show the level of value on the map. And here I have introduced 2 other examples. So you can see it has the title, the author name, the legend, the scale bar, as well as the coordinate system, and the map display areas. So everything is very organized. So what is a bad map? This is a bad map. This is because you see you cannot read the labels because they're too small. So I would not use this template. I will show Alaska and Hawaii in inset instead of making them showing in the same map, and I will only show the continental US. And there are some overlaps with background area, and also the title. Well, there's no author name, so everything is not very organized. So try to avoid this in your actual lab. That's all for this presentation, and thank you.